Welcome to Steno Compendium. Get ready for the dictation. 5 seconds. Now, sir, I know that this plan has just started and it is perhaps too early for us to say anything about it. But we have before us the experience of the ninth 5 year plan. Sir, we had been told that due importance would be attached not merely in words but by practical steps to the public sector. I think in this connection, it was the duty of the Honorable Minister to have explained to this House as to the steps that had been taken with a view to bringing about the kind of reorientation in favor of the public sector which was promised in his numerous statements. But I find that that is completely missing from his speech, except that a pious wish has been expressed with regard to this particular sector of our industry. Previously, we had under the purview of this act about 42 industries. Now the list has lengthened and a number of industries will be added. I concede that when we are having a planned economy, when we are thinking in terms of rapid development of industries, of rapid industrialization, it is necessary for the government to come into the picture more and more and assume the necessary control and direction of industries. I am not opposed to it at all. On the contrary, I would like them to vigorously act in this matter, but that is not enough. We must examine as to whether the direction, regulation, or whatever you call it is on the right lines, how it has worked. We have got such journal statements from the ministers that they do not throw much light for us laymen on the matter. I wish that when such measures are brought before the House, a kind of white paper or whatever you call it is circulated among the members. You do not expect that we, the laymen in this House, would easily understand these things until and unless we have some opportunities of studying the relevant data and the material on the subject. We have been denying those opportunities, and I regret that we have been so denied. I know that in this respect, honorable members who come from big business or the business world would be in a somewhat advantageous position because they are familiar with the working of this act in a way which would enable them to speak more effectively. Now, let us see how this has worked. I know that when this measure was first brought before the House several years ago, there was much opposition to it, which came not from the public but from certain business interests. They did not like any kind of government interference in industry. They believed in a kind of laissez faire in this matter, and they thought that if the government came into the picture, their interests would suffer. Naturally, they were openly hostile to these kinds of powers for the government, but that was not the view of the country. I think that by and large, public opinion was in favor of government controlling industries, not the type of control that we had at the time of the World War, but a type of control which sets before itself certain objectives, and as the objectives became clearer and clearer as the government pronounced itself more and more in favor of industrialization in the country, public opinion strongly wheeled round that particular point of view of the government in this matter, viz. That government should have control over our industries, but it is the government which has not lived up to its promises. I think that in some respects they have let the people down and the expectations of the people have been belied. Now, take for instance the period between 1991 when the measure was first adopted and now. What do we see? We do not have compact figures for the entire period. We have got only certain figures with regard to this matter. I would refer only to the progress reports on the 7th 5 year plan. There you will see that the government had not taken any very effective steps for the development of the public sector. It is true that certain steel mills not going under the 7th 5 year plan and more will be started under the 8th plan. But if you look at the picture, you will find that the public sector was considered to be a secondary matter. It was the private sector which got all the attention and assistance of the government. I am not at all suggesting that government was totally unmindful of the public sector. What I am saying is that when the government entered into the picture, it did not give to the public sector the attention that it deserved. I think that the Honorable Minister owes us an explanation not only as to why such a thing happened, but also as to what steps he is going to take with a view to changing the pattern of such development. Now, about the secretaries. Generally, there is one for each department, and he wants joint secretaries, deputy secretaries, and so on. There is a whole army of secretaries. I do not know how many we have got. It is very difficult to keep pace with the growth of the secretaries in our administration. When the British left, there were a few, now there are too many. I'm not at all suggesting that the number should not have increased. Our Prime Minister is quite right in saying that the administrative work has increased many times, 50 to 100 times. I do not know whether it is 50 to 100 times, but much of the work is not worth having, because if you assess the work properly, then you will find some of the useless things need not be there at all. However, I concede that point that we would require perhaps more ministerial servants in the various departments, more undersecretaries, assistants, stenographers, clerks, and so on. I concede that point. But are we not having too many secretaries? I know what work they are doing. Is there any proper check on that? Most of the work that goes in their name is actually done by people about whom we never discuss, whose merit we do not take into account, who are much maligned in the public administration of our country, the men in the lower rung of the ladder of this public administration. These assistants and others do a lot of work, and it is a very good thing. We are a cultured people, we are a civilized people, and we are a people with initiative. Now, when they feel that they are the functionaries of the government of a free country, naturally they would like to put their very best, and in fact, they are doing so. Unfortunately, their efficiency is not given either due recognition or due incentive, which is required in order to tone up the administration and improve the affairs in our public administration. We should reject this idea of administration by the secretaries. We have got a parliament, we have got a ministry which is supposed to be responsible to the parliament. Howsoever irresponsibly at times it may behave, constitutionally it is supposed to be responsible to parliament. And then we have got a big administrative setup of the government of India. There are people of efficiency, people who are not recognized, who nevertheless discharge their duties efficiently. We want to improve the pace of the administration. We want to democratize our administration. That is the crux of the problem. You cannot have initiative and efficiency until you have our administration democratized. There is bureaucracy, there is soullessness at every point in our administration. I do not know how many of you have talked to the secretaries of the various departments. I have talked to some of the secretaries, but sometimes I feel as if I were talking to the useless persons. One does not see any reaction on their face. I feel that it is the machine that I am talking to. It depresses me, and I'm sure many other people also feel depressed. So, all these secretaries of these departments have to be democratized, and they should be responsive to criticism and to the wishes of the public.